Hey, so it's Steve, the director of the Adrenal Fatigue documentary, and I just wanted to share with you some things. I'm going to share with you something hopefully every week is the plan, because there was so much to talk about with the documentary that I couldn't put everything in there. But today I wanted to share with you my tips or the things that I do to feel better. And it's quite a lot of different things that I do, so I wanted to kind of give you that list. I'd say, if you've seen the documentary, you've seen that my last bad crash was back in 2013. So there's a lot of things that I do. I mean, the first thing is things that are in the documentary is that I do diet and supplements, right? I specifically do hair analysis, right? I've actually become a practitioner myself of hair mineral analysis, so I send a hair sample to the lab every so often to see what my mineral levels are, and also it can show me levels of toxic metals, right? And I've had various levels of toxic metals over the years that I look at. And based on that analysis, we come up with a supplement plan. So I do supplements, and they include a lot of the things we talked about in the documentary, including vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. Another big thing that I do, of course, is diet. Now, I've put together a full diet plan that I use, and it's on the website. So if you go to adrenaldocumentary.com, you can see the diet plan and you're able to get it there. But generally speaking, what I did for my diet is I eliminated wheat and sugar. So like added sugars, of course, I still will eat vegetables that have sugar in them and fruit occasionally, but I try to keep my sugars really low. And then the big addition was lots of cooked vegetables. That's probably the best thing that I did really for my diet, is to get all those cooked vegetables, because they give you lots of microminerals that you normally may not get, and you also, because they're cooked and they're soft, they're very soothing for your digestive system. So if you're having trouble digesting, it's really great. There's a lot of things that I do to keep myself healthy. One thing that I do is sort of psychologically, I would say, is I know when I'm going to feel good usually. I have certain hours in the day that I know I'm going to feel better. Right now, when I wake up, usually for the first 3 hours or so, I feel pretty good. So what I do in the morning is, when I get up, is I do things that help me throughout the day. So actually, what I used to always do is I'd get up and I would just get on my computer the first thing in the morning when I get up. But that's not the best thing to do, right? So what I do now is I clean, and that's great because it's sort of a low intensity movement, but I get moving around, I get my blood flowing, and I'll go, wash the dishes and clean up the various rooms a little bit. But it's like basically 15 or 20 minutes, and that's it. And then I've cleaned. And the good thing about doing that at the beginning of the day is then even if I feel bad for the whole rest of the day after that, I've gotten some cleaning done, so I don't have to sit around in a messy apartment. Right? So that kind of makes me feel better just psychologically to have accomplished that. So I clean, and then I pray. So I have a short prayer that I say every morning at that time. So, just any kind of spiritual tradition I encourage you to do, get that in there. So I clean, I pray, and then I exercise. Now for me, because of the fatigue, I've found out that I can only exercise about 15 minutes intensely a day. So that's what I do. If I do too much more than that, I will not feel well the next day in most cases. So I've decided just to do this. And it is good enough to keep me in a decent shape anyway. So I'll do intense exercise for 15 minutes. I like high intensity interval training. That's really good. I do some weight training as well when I can. Just depends on the situation. So a little bit of cardio, HIIT, and weight training, and I also do stretches, and that's just 15 minutes or maybe 20 if I do some stretching and things like that. Even if you can't exercise much, you can walk, right? Walks are great. I recommend taking walks. So if you can't do anything else, then take walks, and I used to do that a lot when I was in really bad shape. So I have clean, pray, exercise, right? And then I'm doing meditation. Now really the ultimate, I think, or the minimum, it should be like 20 minutes. I've also heard 10 or 12. Right now I'm just kind of meditating somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes in the beginning of my days as well. Another thing I do is intermittent fasting, where I've trained my body to only eat during either a 12-hour or 8-hour period during the day. This is good for you, but not everyone, right? Consult your doctor, as they say. I couldn't do it at first when I was really sick, but later on I feel like it's helped me because it does help promote something called autophagy, where when your body's not digesting, it can do some work like cleaning up dead cells and stuff like that. There's other things that I also do is I find that I have certain tension in my body. So then, one way to do these things every day is to tie them to something else, right? So I do yoga stretches every day after I shower. And showering something I do, almost every day, unless I feel terrible, right? So I take a shower, I get out, and then actually I have another short prayer that I pray. So I have a different prayer that I say after I get out of the shower. And the purpose of that prayer is to remind me of how I was sick before. And that's part of it anyway, to remind me to never forget how bad I was before so I don't do the same things I did before. One of the things I did before was just worry too much about trying to make it in life and, all the things that people, job and material possessions and all those things. And that kind of weighed me down a lot. So the prayer is to kind of remind me to never go that path again, to just be at peace, with what I have and where I'm going right now. So I have that prayer, and then I do my yoga stretches. It's only like for 5 or 10 minutes, but it really helps with my back and my stomach. I find the sun salutations really stretch get that digestive system stretched out. Now, some other things I do occasionally that I want to mention to stay healthy, right? And so, basically, this has been about 2 years now. It's been exactly 2 years, and I think about it, that I do the morning thing, and I called it part of my Relentless program. Like every day I'm at least going to go clean, pray, exercise, and then I added meditate in later. So at least even if I feel terrible the whole rest of the day, I've already done that, and I feel sort of a sense of accomplishment, and I know I've gone forward with my health, right, when I do that. Other things I do, and this just depends on the person, but one thing I do is sauna, and it's just infrared sauna, and you can even do it at home if you're careful with heat lamps. So you can get like the orange heat lamps that you get at the hardware store. So you get some heat lamps and you can set them up. Usually I go into the bathroom, and if you have a stall for your shower, it's great because then the stall kind of encloses the space, and you can even drag like the shower curtain over the top, so you can kind of make a enclosed space for the heat. Just obviously be careful with how you do it, but I do sauna and sweat. And another thing that's great to do while I'm just sitting in the sauna is meditate, right? So then I can get, usually I do about 20 minutes just to try to sweat. It's interesting, which just kind of reminds me of the opposite thing I do when I'm in the shower. At the end of the shower, I turn it all the way to cold. Now this, at first, it's really awful, right? I've been doing it for about 2 years now, but something I found when I was interviewing Dr. Pompa, and another one of his experts that was around mentioned that there's this sort of hormone adaptation you get from having your body go through extreme cold, that it's good for you because when I looked into it more, most people live their lives, their entire lives in these very controlled, climate-controlled environments where our body is never really pushed much to deal with extreme temperatures. But it's actually good for you, again, if you can handle it, right? It's sort of like the intermittent fasting, if you can handle it. This is all just stuff that's worked for me, right? I don't know what will work for you, but I'm just going to tell you all of it, and maybe some of it will. I hope it does. And at least 30 seconds in the shower. Usually I try for 3 minutes with the cold to do that. So you've got the heat with the sauna, which helps, and then I have something I used to call my triple power up. I haven't done it too much lately, I have to admit, because I'm doing a lot of other things. But I do the energy movement called Qigong, right? And interestingly enough, I really enjoy that, and it is helpful for a lot of people that have these sort of things. So I do some Qigong. But another thing you can do is get sunlight. A lot of people don't get enough sunlight. And another thing you could do is something called grounding. There's a whole book, it's called Earthing, actually. It's the same sort of thing where they realize that we all have, human beings, strange enough, we are sort of electrical, and we have a magnetic field. And it seems like we were made, designed, evolved, however you want to look at it, to be in touch with the earth. So literally our feet touching the earth changes our electromagnetic field, and it helps us to do that. Now, I mean, when I first heard about this, I thought it was sort of a woo-woo, new agey thing, but actually there's research on it. So what I would do is I would go outside when it's sunny and stand with my bare feet on the ground in the sun, and I would do Qigong. So I would get Qigong, grounding, and sunlight all at the same time. I call them my triple power-ups. So, and that's something that, it's very enjoyable to do. You can learn very simple Qigong movements and practice them. I make sure I have a regular sleep schedule, and that's really important because it helps you sleep. If you go to bed and get up around the same time every day, your body will start to get tired at that time, right? Even if you don't feel tired every day, if you start developing a habit or a pattern for your body, this is when I go to bed, once you do it long enough, you will start to get to that phase. Also, another thing which I think we talked about in the documentary a little bit is don't be in front of screens right before you go to bed, especially like computer and TV screens. The blue and white light from them makes your body think it's daytime, and you will release more cortisol, and it'll keep you awake. So my tradition before going to bed is reading, right? So I start getting ready for bed and I read a book. And even if you read it on a tablet or something, you can get these programs that shift the light over to orange, away from blue and white, so it won't trigger that kind of sunlight reaction in your body. If you have trouble sleeping, the worst thing you can do is just be angry about it, right? You just accept it. And a lot of times if I have trouble sleeping, I just get up and do something for a while, and then I'll feel tired, right? Instead of laying in bed being angry about not being able to sleep, right? So that's not too fun. And I think another thing to do is sort of monitor where you're at, because you can remember, like I feel like the whole adrenal fatigue thing is sort of a wave type phenomenon, and generally I've been going up for the last 8 years, but you have dips and you go down, and sometimes the dips are a few days and sometimes they're a month or 2 months, but usually I remember I'm sitting there and I'm exhausted and it's hard to think and I can't do much. I remember that this goes away, right? I'm not always like this, and it does go away, and then there are sometimes, especially now with all the things that I do and everything, I'm able to have weeks and even sometimes a whole month where I feel pretty good, and I'm able to function almost normally. I do have to admit I still need to sleep about 10 hours. I was sleeping 12 hours a day when I was really, really bad. Once I got over the insomnia, right? If you remember from the documentary, I couldn't sleep. Once I got over the insomnia, my body's like, well, I'm going to sleep all the time now, right? So I was sleeping 12 hours a day for like a year. So I had to reevaluate my life. I think one of the things I learned to live was, I called it less than ideal, where, sometimes things wouldn't get cleaned up, or sometimes jobs or tasks or errands wouldn't get done as well as I wanted them to, and I had to accept that and be like, well, that's just what I'm living with right now, and be okay, and life goes on. But yeah, one thing I'm lucky because most of my jobs are I've been able to schedule my life so I work in the afternoons and evenings, so I sleep as long as I need to still, which is usually 9 or 10 hours, and until I wake up instead of getting woken up by an alarm. Which is, I think that does wonders for you. Like if you are able to just sleep as long as your body wants to, plus having a regular sleeping schedule, that's going to help you a lot. Recently, I've also decided to sort of become apolitical and not involve myself in political arguments or even political parties or any of that kind of stuff, because it was so stressful to me, and it's not helping me. And also, I decided no more arguments on Facebook, even though I'm tempted, want to tell somebody they're wrong about something. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not worth it. So not argue. If you can use social media without arguing on it, right, then that's okay, I think. And of course, getting people out of your life that cause you stress and things like that. But also letting things go when they don't work out. You just have to, right? If you hold on to things, it causes you more stress. I do remember, when I first had the really, really, really bad anxiety, that I did go to counseling. And, even though my anxiety I'm pretty sure was physiological, right? It was from my body flooding me with hormones and being out of balance and all that kind of stuff. But it gave me techniques for dealing with anxiety. You know, simple CBT, where you learn to stop thoughts and replace them with other thoughts. And you become aware of your thoughts. You realize, hey, my thoughts aren't so great. You know, I need to look at these things and other things. You know, just like the meditation and the learning to accept reality and love what does happen. You know, I've been studying a lot of philosophy lately, like Stoicism and Taoism and things like that, where it just talks about being okay with what things are. And you don't have to label everything or judge everything. You just, you know, be and experience life. And there's this richness of life that you find out. I think actually suffering can help you come to that, because when you kind of see you're not going to have this sort of materially successful or incredibly amazing material life, right? You look inward, and you know, when you're not feeling well for years and years, and you can't do things that you used to do physically, you can find ways to appreciate the world without having to do those things. And so in some way it's benefited me, where I can just appreciate the sun or appreciate the day or flowers or music or whatever it is, without having to have the things that I used to think I needed to have so badly. So it's very freeing to kind of get into that. So even if you don't specifically think you have a trauma or psychological problem, going to counseling is still great because they give you tools to handle when you have either anxiety or even depression from this condition or from toxicity or whatever you have that's causing you to have these problems. So that's a lot, but that's what I do. I just wanted to share that with you and let you know what I do for my adrenal fatigue. I plan to make more videos like this, so please subscribe now so you'll know when more of them are available. You can watch the full documentary at adrenaldocumentary.com.